Alrighty. So first of all, before I start, I want to apologize the fact that you can't really read the text on the board. And anytime when I decided to use green markers to write down the notes, it's obviously very hard to read it on the board. And I thought it would be readable, but then when I opened my OBS software that I used to record on my laptop, yeah, you basically can barely read it. So I apologize, of course, that is the case. Though I'm pretty sure most of you probably don't even pay attention to the board, and some of you might even use this as a podcast, which I'm perfectly fine with that. But again, for those that actually do pay attention in terms of the board, I do apologize that you can't really read it. But it's not like I'm not gonna go over something important on the board. Pretty much everything on this board, I'll basically read piece by piece as we do the season preview of the Seattle Sounders, who, believe it or not, we are actually now down to the last four season preview. In fact, I probably could finish the season preview tomorrow. I might just do the last three and then I'll start doing videos related for the upcoming season because it's hard to believe we are 1 week away from the MLS regular season. The preseason is pretty much wrapping up for a lot of these teams, and then it's really for real. And in some way, the regular season when it comes to me doing reviews and previews, it kind of starts on Tuesday with the CONCACAF Champions Cup first leg is about to start as well. So I'll be back doing those review and then of course do the preview of the opening weekend of the 2025 MLS regular season. But for the Seattle Sounders, heading into this season, just like Inter Miami, this team is gonna have a lot of games to battle. They're gonna be in a lot of competition. And I will say that when you look at this team compared to Inter Miami, I do think that this team might do a little bit better when it comes to battling those competition. I mean, not saying that Inter Miami doesn't have quality in terms of their top end talent, and I do think that when it comes to top end talent, Inter Miami just have a little bit more than what the Seattle Sounders can offer. But when it comes to just a rounded team and just loads of depth in their team, Seattle definitely has that edge over Miami, and this is where I'm a little bit more confident that Seattle can still finish relatively high in the standings, despite the fact that they have to battle so many games, and that just like Inter Miami, they're going to be a lot of weeks where they could be playing free games in 7 days. But that being said, last season they finished in fourth with a 16-9-9 record and finished with 57 points. They came very close going back to MLS Cup. In fact, they were probably the toughest opponent and gave the Galaxy the hardest time out of any opponent that faced the Galaxy throughout their MLS Cup run. But yeah, they unfortunately got eliminated in the Western Conference Final. Their head coach is still Brian Schmetzer. He's actually now the second longest serving head coach in MLS after Jim Curtin, of course, got fired from the Union just this offseason. He's been there since 2016. Their general manager is Craig Wable. He, of course, took over for Garth Lagerwey after Garth Lagerwey went to Atlanta United. He's been there since 2022. Looking at some of the transfer that they made this offseason, so they didn't really make too much signings this offseason, which kind of feels very Seattle Sounder esque because this is a team that they wait till the summer to make some of the signings. But one thing I will say is that when it comes to the signings that they did make this offseason, yeah, they were definitely some big signing that what was in it. They definitely had some blockbuster trade involving them and FC Dallas. But first of all, they signed Leo Burney as one of the homegrown, and then they also decided to promote Travian their MLS Next Pro team to the Sounders team. And then this is where we get to the big trade that they had, starting with Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola, both of them coming from FC Dallas. And I know some people have kind of jokingly said the Seattle Sounders is secretly trying to assemble the U.S. men's national team Gold Cup team from a couple of years. And honestly, if that is the case, I mean, I'm fine with that because, that team actually went on to win the Gold Cup. And if you're going to once again look to try to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup or even go in a major tournament as the Sounders team is going to be, then you definitely want to have a team that's full of Gold Cup players that was on that national team a couple years ago to be on your team and maybe make a run for it as well. They also re-signed Joe Paulo, which was pretty big because there was a lot of question whether if he was going to come back or not. He decided to come back for one more year. They also re-signed Albert Rustak to a new contract as well, and then they also brought in an old face to solidify their backline in Kihi. Yes, he's back with this team. Remember him playing for this team for a couple of years and was part of that Sounders team that were winning MLS Cup left and right, and was part of the trilogy of MLS Cup that we saw between the Sounders and Toronto FC. But the player that is no longer on this team, we start off with Kitahara. His option got declined. The same goes for Nathan as well. They of course decided not to re-sign Raul Ruidiaz, who still has not have a club right now, despite the fact that there was heavy interest that San Diego FC was going to get him. They decided not to get him, and he's still out of contract. And I'm assuming one of these MLS team could potentially sign him, or maybe he's going to go back to his native country in Peru to finish his career. Because while Rui Diaz obviously is not the same player that he was a couple of years ago, he still scored 8 goals for the Sounders last season, and a very quiet 8 goal campaign as well. I think he still could be a decent option for an MLS team, and I won't be surprised he might go the same route that Nico Ladero is joining a new MLS team, kind of more as a depth piece rather than just a regular starter. They also declined the option of Dylan Tevez, and they, of course, traded Leo Chu to FC Dallas. That was part of the big trade that they were involved between them and Jesus Ferrer. And they also waived Bradleo Rodriguez as the last player to be out of the Sounders team this offseason. Looking at the first 5 games for the Sounders, so they start the season by playing against Charlotte FC, but we know that their season actually start when it comes to competitives in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But after that, they play against RSL on the road before playing against LAFC in a rematch of the Western Conference semi-final. That should be a must-watch TV. Consider anytime when Seattle play against LAFC, you know it's going to be a good game, even if for a while LAFC pretty much dominates Seattle every single game. Then they go on the road to play against St. Louis City before returning home to play against the Houston Dynamo. Looking at the last 5 games of the season, they have a big showdown against Inter Miami on September 16th. That should be an interesting matchup, and maybe even could be a preview of MLS Cup as well, because I do think that as much as I know LAFC might be the team to beat once again. When you look at the Seattle team, when it comes to a team that clearly has the talent and also the depth to do so, when I compare that to the rest of the Western Conference, I don't think there's any team that is as good as what the Sounders is in terms of fitting all those category. And I don't think anyone would be surprised if this team can get themselves back to MLS Cup, even though that will be kind of to the annoyance of a lot of Western Conference team, because it's hard to believe, but it's been a while since we have seen not a team from the Cascadia region, that is Seattle or Portland, or not a team that is named LA, made it to the Western, or made it to MLS Cup out of the Western Conference. But after that, they play against Austin FC on the road before playing against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Then we have the Cascadia Derby against that between them and the Timbers at home, and they finish the season on the road against NYCFC. And as I said in my season preview about NYCFC, this is kind of weird situation that they have an interconference matchup for their decision day. They obviously, we don't usually see that happen, but because of the fact that both conferences have an odd number of teams, that's why you have to have at least one interconference matchup, and they are one of those teams that is involved in that lone interconference matchup on decision day. Now, look at the strength of this team. It's obviously the all-around talent of this team, and that's include the depth too. I mean, when you look at this team, they're pretty much 3 or 4 deep in most position, and in some cases in their midfield, they're almost 7 or 8 deep in terms of the depth that they had. It's not just the notable suspect in terms of the team. Well, actually, why don't I say no like that? Let me rephrase that. The notable both star players of this team and the starter of this team, but it's also when you look at the depth and even the one that they have from Tacoma Defiance. I mean, the Sounders. People don't give them enough credit. The fact that they actually do develop some good talent as well. I think when it comes to producing good soccer talent. We know the some of the best academy like FC Dallas, the Red Bulls, and the Union, how good they are. But not a lot of people give the Sounders credit that they develop some really good players out of themselves, and really has done a much better job when it comes to developing these players, and then also putting them and getting them some minutes, because that was kind of the problem for the Sounders for a while, where because they're so top heavy, they have the chance to implement some of these players coming out of the academy that could be super talented and ready to impress in the first team, but they just simply don't have the time to do so because they're already top heavy. But with the way that again, because of the fixture congestion that they have to deal with, those players will definitely get a chance in terms of some of the competition that the Sounders might be involved, where they might not think about starting their strongest team, knowing that they probably could still do well, even if they're not starting their stronger team. But looking at the weakness of this team, again, I could have said easily none, but I think fixture congestion is going to be the big weakness of this team. As deep as the Sounders is, as we always talk about a MLS team being very deep and can handle the fixture congestion, we have seen before for where even with the amount of fixture congestion that it is going on, it's hard to deal with in the entire season without a bit of a drop off. And I won't be surprised the Sounders might have that. They might have some times in especially in league play where they might struggle a bit, mainly because they're just kind of punting game away. But most likely, I will also say that with the way that recently MLS team has done a much better job in terms of fixture congestion, and we have recently seen that when teams make deep run in the CONCACAF Champions Cup or even make deep run in other competition, it doesn't really hurt them that much when it comes to regular standings, like what we've seen before, where it absolutely hurt them because you're basically sacrificing almost the entire team in one specific competition, and you can't really make up for it because the team is absolutely exhausted, or in the case of some teams, they might have suffered some heartbreaking losses in one competition and never really recover once they get back to league play. So look at the free big question of this team, and talk about the fixture congestion. It's going to be interesting to see how Brian Schmetzer battle it. And I will say that I actually trust Brian Schmetzer to battle the fixture congestion better than what Javier Mascherano does. And the reason why, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. One, when it comes to experience, Brian Schmetzer is a very experienced and well-respected head coach in this league. Arguably, probably the best head coach right now in this league, and he knows how to battle fixture congestion. He is going to rotate the squad when he feels like it. And the other big advantage that Brian Schmidt's a team when it comes to to rotating squad that Miami won't have the advantage to do so. Seattle don't really have a player where you could say that, well, he's got to really start game in and get game out because the fans are there to see him. That's the problem with Inter Miami with the way that, you have to kind of play Messi for most of the game because, people pay a lot of money to go to those games, especially when they play against Western Conference team on the road. They almost are kind of forced to play Messi and play all his friends in a game because many people pay 500 or even $1,000 to witness that game, and you definitely don't want to upset those fans that pay that much money. Even though I've said before, and I'll say it again, for all of you that is trying to pay $500 and $600, just know that there's no guarantee the fact that the greatest player of all time can show up. If he doesn't show up, don't be upset that fact that is the case. It's just a way how it is in sports where you're going to have times where coach is going to have to make that difficult decision to balance picture congestion because at the end of the day, and this is the thing that I don't know if I said about that when I did the season preview of Inter Miami, at the end of the day, for this Inter Miami team, they got to realize that the goal of this season is not to just kind of give the fans a show, and even away fans a show with the greatest player of all time and his friends playing with each other. The goal for this team is clearly win trophies and clearly compete in multiple competition and win trophy in those competition. And the only way to do so is that you got to rotate the roster, and this is where Seattle again has that advantage because there really isn't a player on this team where you say, well, we simply can't sit him in a game because that will really upset the fans or what so yeah, again, that's the big advantage I think the Sounders will have over Miami, where they don't have that pressure of really have to put their best 11 just to give the fans a big showcase. Who play the nine position heading into this season? That is another big question. Where is it going to be Jordan Morris and is it going to be Jesus Ferreira? And this is going to be interesting to see what Brian Schmetzer is going to do. Morris did really well last season in the nine position, and many people predict that he's going to stick in that position. But then with the arrival of Jesus Ferreira, I think it is pretty clear that Jesus Ferreira feels more comfortable playing in the ninth position rather than playing in the 10 or even in the wing position. You saw how his number kind of really dipped mainly because, he was playing out of position in a spot that he wasn't really comfortable with. I mean, it's not that he can't really produce when he playing out of position, but just not the same way as he is playing in the 9 position. So it's going to be interesting to see who is going to do so. Maybe they might even go with a two striker system as well, but most likely from what I've seen with Brian Schmidt's team, it's always a one striker system, especially when Raul Diaz was their main number 9. They always put him up front, and Schmitz never really go with a two striker system. So yeah, he's gonna have a big decision to make of whether or not he gonna select Morris to do to play that 9, or is one of those guys are probably gonna have to shift to the wing. And then lastly, can they win silverware this season? And I might as well just kind of get straight to the expectation of this team of simply they need to win silverware and maybe be respectable in the FIFA Club World Cup. Now, starting with the silverware, it's hard to believe, but it's been a while since the Seattle Sounders have won some silverware. I mean, for a team that have regularly won silverware during the 2010s, and many people proclaimed them as the team of the decade in MLS with so much success throughout multiple competition. When it comes to silverware, I mean, yes, they did win the CONCACAF Champions Cup a couple of years ago, and that was a major achievement, not just for the Seattle Sounders, but for MLS in general. The fact that finally the mountain has been conquered, where an MLS team finally uh, conquered the mountain of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, or as it was used to call the CONCACAF Champions League. That's something that just been dreaded MLS team throughout the time. But besides that, the last time they won a trophy besides that is when they won MLS Cup in 2019. And, one trophy in the last 5 years, that's unacceptable for the, the, the expectation and all of the pedigree of the Seattle Sounders. This is a team that they know that they can win more trophy than just the one that they had in the last 5 years, and I'm pretty sure they're definitely going to be gunning for some silverware heading into this season as well. But also, look at the FIFA Club World Cup. So unlike Inter Miami, they are definitely in a much tougher group compared to Inter Miami. In fact, you could say they might be in the group of death in the FIFA Club World Cup. And I know that when you look at them facing against a big European team out there, I mean, I know they're probably not going to win with the likes of Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan. Those two teams that I think that those are the two that Seattle might have to face in the group stage of the FIFA Club World Cup. But if they look respectable in those games, I think I'll be very happy to see. And in some way, I also think that Seattle is really kind of carrying the MLS flag when it comes to this FIFA Club World Cup. I apologize to Inter Miami fans and also Messi fans as well watching this video. If you're pretty much typing in the comments of, well, what about Inter Miami? I mean, they play in MLS as well. But let's be honest, the reason why Inter Miami got there was simply because, yeah, they have Messi. I mean, FIFA is not going to not let Inter Miami in and not let the best player of all time participate in this competition. Seattle actually really earned this spot, and again, this is a team that I think will definitely be carrying more of the MLS flag, and a team that is looking to try to have a much better Club World Cup than they did last time. Because as we remember what happened last time in the Club World Cup, they didn't do so well in the first round against an Egyptian team. Though again, the Sounders and Sounders fan will make the case that that was during their pretty much their preseason. Obviously they were clearly not ready for that game, and we'll see whether that of course is the true now that they are going to be playing in this competition that is literally in the midst of the middle of the season, and they'll definitely be more prepared in this FIFA Club World Cup compared to last season. But again, there's no doubt there's a lot of high expectation once again for the Sounders team, especially for a fan base this is a fan base that at times could be very insufferable, but it's also a fan base that it is not going to show a lot of patience when it comes to not getting reserve. They want reserve. They set high standards of winning silverware, and we'll see whether or not the Seattle Sounders can do so this season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below if you're a Sounders fan. What do you think is the strength, the weakness, the free big question, and the expectation is heading into this season for the Sounders team? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.